Welcome back everybody. So I think it's been quite some time we haven't reviewed our pan roasting technique, and I never hear pan roasting, and it's actually very simple. So today we're going to be pan roasting a rack of lamb, and we're going to cook it with some simple vegetables with a recipe that's called in French the carré d'agneau à la niçoise, meaning the rack of lamb cooked in the style of the town of Nice in France. So it is in the south of France. So we're going to have the rack of lamb with courgettes, tomatoes, few potatoes, thyme. I'm adding some garlic, it wasn't in a recipe, and some black olives. The olives are meant to be from Nice, hence the name. Cooked à la niçoise, it is an appellation in France. When we say à la something, it means it has to have certain ingredients. In this case, usually you have to have the olives from Nice, but if you don't have them like me, you can use black olives in brine, it's fine. You're also going to need, by the way, a cast iron pot like this, like a Dutch oven. It works really well for that sort of recipe. So let's get ready and let's cook. And now let's start. So the first thing you're going to have to do, of course, is the mise en place. A lot of work of chopping in this one. As you can see, there's a bit of a theme going on. Everything has to be chopped in small cubes. The reason for that is that when you're pan roasting a rack of lamb, and when you're cooking the rack of lamb then in the oven, it's going to take about 20 to 25 minutes. So you have to make sure everything is cooked, including the raw potatoes that we've got here. This is why when they're small like this, they're not going to take as long to cook. What we're going to have to do first, before we color the rack of lamb and prepare it for the oven, we're going to have to apply the same treatment to the vegetables. So let's recap on the pan roasting technique. What is the pan roasting? Pan roasting, you've got a cast iron pot or any kind of pot. We're going to be coloring the meat on all sides to give first the color and then finish the cooking in the oven. So it is first the coloring, then the cooking. And we're going to do the same for the vegetables. We're going to pre-cook them and color them in pans independently. Courgettes, potatoes, and aphrodis in the oven. Okay? And then when everything is brown and ready and nice looking, everything together in the pot, and boom. Finish in the oven, 25 minutes, you can relax, and then it's ready. How easy is that? There's no real order in which you should start to brown or color the vegetables, and we're going to start here with the courgette. Why not? We're going to use 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm using a non-stick pan because it's easier, but if you don't have, you can use a stainless steel, it's no problem. Perfect, so make sure your oil is hot enough. Doesn't have to be super, super hot, but make sure it's hot. And everything in there. And as you can see, there's not much, huh? Just a little bit. And a tiny amount of salt and pepper. So you don't overdo it, because honestly, salt is your worst enemy. If you add too much, you can't remove it. So better put less salt. And then if it lacks salt after, you can add more, okay? We are going to do a bit of multitasking. I've got a hot pan here for the potatoes, and I'm going to do that in the same time. Same treatment for the potatoes, a little bit of salt and pepper. And we're just gonna color everything. Perfect, so I'm done here. So when we say color the vegetable, it's a big word, and it's just some slight little coloring on the courgettes. That's enough. And my potatoes there, and they should be ready by now. And I'm gonna transfer everything back into their bowls. Now the tomatoes, you can use the oven. It's actually meant to be in the pan, so I'm gonna show you in the pan, but it's just really just a bit of a flash fry, and it's going to be it. So not very long, just a few minutes, and a bit of salt and pepper. So now we're ready. A quick look on the rack of lamb. I've added some salt. I don't usually add pepper anymore, because pepper, when you kind of pan roast and you get a high temperature, it tends to burn, and it can become a little bit bitter. So I'm using some salt flakes. It's a bit everywhere, and that's what you get. And we're going to use that and color all the sides that you see here. So all this, the fat here, the sides, the meat. We're going to start to color this to give a nice coloration before we put it in the oven. That's what it is. So we are back where we started, basically. Exactly the same mise en place, except now that all the vegetables have been pre-cooked. I've got now my cast iron pot. I've got a tablespoon of oil. I'm not using olive oil in here because it can burn. I'm using sunflower oil. And I'm just going to wait for that to be very hot, and we're going to grab our rack of lamb here and start to color it. Now you will note that this particular rack of lamb, I've asked the butcher to cut the excess of bone. And we usually do that to be able to turn it around in the pan, because if you have these huge bones, it's awkward and you're not going to have the agility to kind of move around and color all the surfaces. So this is why the bones, you can see, that have been cut. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm going to put first the fatty part on here at the bottom, because there's a lot of fat. I'm going to melt the fat and start the coloring here. Now, one thing you have to do as well now is to preheat your oven at 210 Celsius. I'm using a fan-forced oven. Perfect, so it's smoking away. I'm gonna start to put it on the side here and color the end. So I keep on going. As you can see, you see why we've cut here the bones, because now I can go on any side I want, can turn it around all the way. So you know the name of the game here, just brown everything as much as you can, but not too long because we don't want to cook the whole piece of lamb here. So you see there's some white, I'm going to turn around after, it's going to be nice. Perfect, so my piece of lamb here is ready. I'm going to take it out, I'm going to remove the excess of grease from the pan. So look at this, we're back to square one again, except that this time in the mise en place we've got the pre-cooked vegetables, all the aromatics. Now we've got the rack of lamb that has been colored. This is the pan roasting, we color everything first. And what's going to happen now, we're going to finish the cooking in the oven. So what we're going to do, we're going to place the rack of lamb back into the pot that's been cleaned. I've used a paper towel to remove the excess of grease, and then we're going to arrange the vegetables and the aromatics, and that's it. All right, so let's grab this little guy here, rack of lamb in. Okay, once the lamb is in, basically we're going to arrange everything. So a bit of vegetables, I'm starting with the potato, but you can do pretty much whatever you want. There's no real order for these kinds of recipe, you know what I mean. Up. Very nice. A few tomatoes here and there. Up, little bay leaf. I'm using lemon thyme today. So I feel like lemon thyme instead. And I'm gonna add, which is not in the recipe, I think I'm gonna add a few garlics. But that's just me, you don't have to. So there we are. So the question comes, why pot roasting? Now pot roasting, as you can see here, you can assemble everything and you can get the look you want before you cook everything. So now I know that everything has got a nice coloring. I know my vegetables are pre-cooked. I can arrange everything. And the game here, of course, is not to have to mix things around all the time. You're not going to want to make a mash of vegetables. They're just going to stay like this, the vegetables. And now that I've got everything like this, I'm going to put my lid on, cook this for 20 minutes in the oven, and I know exactly how it's going to come out. It's going to look exactly the same. So all what I need to care about now is to make sure the meat is cooked. So the lamb, of course, when you get a rack of lamb, the safe internal temperature, the core temperature is about 145 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 60, 65 Celsius. And if you want, you can put a probe, a thermometer to check the temperature to know exactly when it's cooked. For me, I'm going to cook this for 20 minutes. I've got like six chops here and there, so I think 20 minutes should be fine. So I'm going to put my lid on in the oven and I'll share the result with you when it's ready. And here we are, so this is just out of the oven. It's a little bit rustic and we need to arrange it. Of course, you're not going to leave it like this. The recipe says you can serve it like this on the table, but I think we're going to make another effort, try to play this a little bit better, take some of the veggies out. But as you can see, most important, you see the vegetables are cooked, the lamb is cooked, everything is ready, and boom, you can serve. All right, so I've taken the rack of lamb, and I think the only thing I want to check with the vegetables, we know how they are, but I just want to make sure that the cooking of the lamb is going to be, all right. Ooh, see, just rosé, huh? But I like it a little bit less cooked than that, but it's fine. And there we have it, carré d'agneau à la niçoise, aka the rack of lamb cooked in the style of the town of Nice. So the first thing I would say is that rustic garnish that you see here doesn't look like much, but really surprised by the result. It's a beautiful mix. The texture, actually, it is the texture of the potatoes mixed with the courgette, the black olives, and a hint of tomato with that lemon thyme really worked beautifully. The lamb that you see here, the rack of lamb, as you can see the color, I've cooked this rosé, or this is considered to be the safe zone, above 145 degrees Fahrenheit, which is above 62 degrees Celsius. It does not yield that kind of super red meat that is almost raw that you see always on magazine and things like that. But this is how it looks like when it's in that kind of safe zone. That said, the meat is absolutely tender, it melts in the mouth, and there's absolutely no problem. But if you want something less cooked, all what you need to do with that recipe is to change the cooking time for the rack of lamb. So it is really absolutely up to you. I think the star of the show here, the lamb, we know how lamb is, good quality lamb, but the garnish, the combination of the lemon and the garnish is absolutely, absolutely nice. And these little touches, like the black olives at the end, really, I think, add something different than what you would expect. But anyway, that's it for this week's recipe. Le carré d'agneau à la niçoise. I hope you enjoy it. And really, I would really appreciate if you try that recipe and send me some picture on Instagram, hashtag French Cook Academy. For the rest, if you want to follow me, you can use Facebook and become a patron on my Patreon page. And as always, we've got our online culinary school that is going strong. So if you want to join, you're all welcome. I'll see you all next week. Take care all. Bye-bye.